$9.48 million for a scrap of paper smaller than your thumbnail. In 2014, the British Guiana 1-cent Magenta, the only one known to exist, became the most expensive stamp ever sold. But it's far from the only stamp to fetch millions. Collectors wage bidding wars over tiny rectangles of printed paper that most people wouldn't glance at twice. What transforms these fragile artifacts into some of the most fought-over objects in the world? In 1873, a 12-year-old boy named Louis Vernon Vaughan stumbled across an odd scrap of magenta paper while sifting through his uncle's correspondence in British Guiana. He had no idea the tiny stamp he found, printed hastily in 1856 after a shipment of regular postage failed to arrive, would become the world's most famous rarity. Only a handful were ever issued, but as decades passed, every other example vanished. Today, just one survives, the British Guiana 1-cent Magenta. Its journey through history reads like a novel. It passed from Vaughan to a local collector, then across continents, landing in the hands of Europe's greatest philatelist, Philip von Ferrari. After Ferrari's death, the stamp was auctioned in Paris, where American industrialist Arthur Hind outbid 3 European kings in 1922, paying $32,500, a sum that made headlines around the world. Later, it spent years in a bank vault, surfaced at exhibitions in New York and Melbourne, and was even owned by a syndicate of investors. In 2014, shoe designer Stuart Weitzman paid $9.48 million at Sotheby's, doodling a stiletto on its reverse and sparking debate among purists. The Magenta's story does not end there. In 2021, the London firm Stanley Gibbons acquired it for $8.3 million, placing it in a climate-controlled frame and offering shares to collectors worldwide. No other stamp has a provenance this rich, or a value so multiplied by its sheer singularity. When only one exists, the price is whatever the world's most determined collector will pay. On a gray morning in London, May 6, 1840, a small square of paper changed the course of global communication. The penny black, bearing the profile of Queen Victoria, was the world's first adhesive postage stamp. Its invention was not just a technical novelty, it was the result of Rowland Hill's sweeping postal reforms, which introduced a flat rate of 1 penny for letters up to half an ounce, paid in advance by the sender. Until then, recipients often refused letters to avoid unpredictable charges, and the cost of long-distance communication kept families and businesses apart. Now, for a single coin, anyone could send a message across the United Kingdom. Within months, millions of penny blacks traveled between cities, villages, and continents, fueling a surge in correspondence that historians now link to the rapid economic and social expansion of the Victorian era. A curator at the British Postal Museum describes the penny black as more than a collector's item. It is a micro-document of an era when information began to move faster than ever before. Each surviving stamp carries the imprint of that transformation. While the penny black is not unique, tens of thousands still exist. Its cultural weight is immense. The stamp's impact is measured not just in numbers, but in the way it democratized access to the written word, shrinking distances for families and businesses alike. The value collectors place on the penny black today is not solely about scarcity. It is about holding a piece of the moment when communication became truly modern, when a single penny could send a thought across the world. This historical resonance is what elevates the penny black from mere paper to a prized artifact, and why museums take extraordinary care to preserve them for future generations. A single crease, a faint smudge, or a hint of fading, these are the details that can separate a $1 million stamp from a mere curiosity. In the world of philately, condition is not a footnote, but a multiplier that can make or break value. Grading begins with a careful inspection. A trained expert examines the paper under a magnifier, checking for tears along the edges, measuring perforations with a gauge, and studying the color for any signs of fading. Even the back of the stamp comes under scrutiny. Original gum is prized. If the gum has been removed or replaced, called regumming by collectors, the price can drop by as much as 70%. A small tear can slash value by half, while color fading can cut it by 80% or more. The taxonomy of defects is precise. A crisp, undisturbed gum and sharp perforations signal a top-grade specimen, while creases, stains, or heavy cancellations push a stamp down the grading scale. Auction records show the impact clearly. In 2018, a near-perfect penny black sold for $180,000, but a similar stamp with a crease fetched just $12,000. The difference is not just cosmetic. Condition reassures buyers that a stamp has survived decades, sometimes centuries, without compromise. For the rarest issues, this preservation becomes a kind of insurance, giving collectors the confidence to compete and pay at the very highest levels. The auction floor hums with a tension that borders on electric. At Sotheby's in 2014, the British Guiana 1-cent Magenta drew a crowd of seasoned collectors, investment syndicates, and a few bold newcomers. The opening bid landed at $5 million, already a fortune for a scrap of paper. But this was just the beginning. Each paddle lift sent the price higher, first in $250,000 steps, then $500,000 surges as the room's energy spiked. When the bidding crossed $7 million, the increments jumped again, each new offer delivered with the confidence of someone determined not to blink. In the final moments, 3 contenders, 2 individual collectors, and a syndicate traded million-dollar raises, each pause stretching the nerves of everyone present. The hammer finally fell at $9.48 million, a price that stunned even the auction specialist, who later described the scene as a masterclass in psychological brinksmanship. This fever is not limited to the ultra-wealthy. Syndicates, groups pooling resources, have become a fixture in high-stakes sales. In 1970, a New York dealer led a group that split the Magenta's ownership, pioneering a model now echoed in today's fractional share offerings. When Stanley Gibbons acquired the Magenta in 2021, they did not just lock it in a vault, they offered thousands of collectors the chance to buy a stake, some for as little as $100. These platforms turn a single stamp into a shared asset, multiplying demand and fueling new bidding wars. In this market, the psychology of competition means that each rise in price is both a measure of desire and a signal to every other bidder. Hesitate and you lose your shot at history. In the spring of 1918, a Washington, D.C. cashier named William Roby walked into his local post office and bought a single sheet of the brand new 24-cent airmail stamps. What he found stunned him. Every Blue Curtis Jenny biplane in the center was printed upside down, a glaring error impossible to miss. Roby, recognizing the oddity's potential, paid $24 for the entire sheet of 100. He wasted no time, and within days, he sold the sheet to a Philadelphia dealer for $15,000, a sum that dwarfed his monthly salary. The sheet was quickly broken up, and the individual stamps began to circulate among collectors, each one gaining a story and a price tag of its own. A historian calls the inverted Jenny the moment when a simple printing mistake transformed overnight into the holy grail of American philately. From that day forward, the hunt for errors became a passion, and the inverted Jenny set the gold standard. A fluke turned into a fortune, and a new chapter in collecting was born. A single misstep at the printing press can rewrite the rules of value. The inverted Jenny, America's most famous error stamp, proves that a mistake is not just an oddity, it is a multiplier. In the current market, a pristine, regular 24-cent Jenny airmail stamp sells for about $110,000. But the inverted Jenny plate block, 4 stamps with the airplane printed upside down, brought in $2.5 million at auction in 2024. That is more than 20 times the price of its flawless, error-free cousin. The premium is not just about rarity. There are only a handful of error blocks known, and it is also about the story each mistake tells. Collectors pay for the drama, for the improbable survival of an error that should never have existed. The numbers are clear. Error stamps routinely trade at 15 to 20 times the value of their standard counterparts, sometimes more if the story behind the blunder is especially vivid. This premium reshapes the market, turning what might have been a printer's embarrassment into a prize that commands a global stage. Today, rare stamps outpace gold and art in some investment circles, proof that even the smallest artifact can rewrite what we value. As collectors chase the next record, each stamp sale redraws the map of history and status. In the end, value is always a matter of perspective.